uncovering SEC corporate greed and market manipulation. Explore how corporate greed influences SEC enforcement, exposing the blurred lines between regulation and big business profits in today's markets. Unveiling SEC corporate greed practices. Hey, so have you ever wondered just how deep the corporate greed rabbit hole goes, especially when it involves the mighty SEC? I mean, on the surface, the Securities and Exchange Commission is supposed to be this watchdog ensuring fairness in the markets, right? But what if I told you that behind the scenes, some practices expose a whole different story? Today, I'm going to share some eye-opening insights about the corporate greed tied to the SEC, and why you might want to think twice before buying into everything you hear about government conspiracy or untrue allegations thrown around. Trust me, it's a wild ride. First off, what's the SEC's main role? They regulate securities markets, enforce securities laws, and protect investors. Sounds good in theory. But here's the thing. Their enforcement tactics sometimes blur lines with corporate interests. Big corporations often face SEC actions. On paper, it looks like justice is served. But the truth is, these companies frequently settle quietly with fines that, let's be honest, are just a slap on the wrist considering their billions in revenue. Think of it like a tiny speed bump on an otherwise smooth expressway for them. There have been numerous cases where corporations essentially use the SEC's settlements as a business cost. The fees they pay often don't reflect the scale of the wrongdoing. This creates a perverse incentive. Why clean up your act when paying a fine is cheaper than fundamentally changing harmful behaviors? It's a system that enables a cycle of recurring offenses and corporate profits rather than accountability. Now, you might have heard stories about pharmaceutical profits skyrocketing. And yeah, that industry's a prime example of corporate greed, with or without the SEC. Pharmaceutical companies spend billions on lobbying and legal fees, yet continue aggressively marketing drugs sometimes questioned for their necessity or safety. The SEC, meanwhile, is watching for insider trading or misstatements in earnings, but it's not the body holding these companies responsible for the ethical dimension of their business practices. That's where things get tricky. What's wild is how some corporate giants manipulate disclosures to keep shareholders happy. The SEC requires transparency, but these companies often pack their reports with jargon and fine print, effectively burying crucial info. While technically compliant, shareholders and the public end up missing the full story. It's a masterclass in regulations loopholing. Selective enforcement. The SEC doesn't pursue all cases with equal vigor. Smaller players may get hammered harshly, while large entities often settle without admission of guilt. Prolonged investigations. Corporations use legal delays to wear down regulators, making enforcement costly and slow. Opaque settlements. Most settlements involve no admission of wrongdoing, leaving real accountability in question. Sometimes critics accuse the SEC of being a puppet to corporate interests, fueling ideas of a government conspiracy. While that may sound sensational, it's not entirely baseless given the cozy relationships between regulators and the companies they oversee. That dynamic creates an environment where profits come first, and public interest is occasionally an afterthought. Still, it's important to separate fact from untrue allegations. Not every allegation or claim about the SEC is true or grounded in reality, and some narratives are exaggerated or spun for various reasons. What is real, however, is this complex dance of regulations, enforcement, and corporate strategies that often leaves everyday investors on the back foot. Want a break from all this heavy talk? I recently found a great thrill-packed novel called The Ultimate Frame by Andrew M. Semple that actually brings some of these themes to life in a fictional yet gripping way. It's like getting a front-row seat to corporate intrigue, greed, and high-stakes drama, all wrapped in a fast-moving story that's hard to put down. Discover this thrilling novel by Andrew M. Semple today. It's a fresh way to better understand, or at least entertain yourself with, some of these real-world corporate plot twists. So next time you hear about SEC enforcement or corporate scandals, remember there's more beneath the surface, where profit, power, and regulation intersect in ways that can sometimes feel less than fair. It's not just black and white, but a murky gray world that affects all of us, especially when it comes to how businesses operate and how their actions impact our economy and trust in the system. Thanks for listening to this little breakdown. If you like this, Stick around for more discussions where I unpack issues that you've probably heard about, but never quite got the full story on. Until then, keep questioning, stay informed, and yeah, challenge the narratives as best as you can.